You ever have Ross or Ben during a lesson? Like one lesson will be fine, and then the next lesson, like the bandwidth will go from like yellow to red and be unstable. It's been
Yeah,
happening. It's been happening to us this week, and then like kind of we're seeing it, and then it goes away, and we can't really figure out a rhyme or reason to it.
so how's your internet connection though?
Really good.
Really
Again,
good.
speed test, internet connection's great.
Yeah.
It's it's just in
Uh,
the.
do you think it's a Zoom problem?
I don't know. I'm not.
Y-
I'm wondering if it's something to do with just the connection of my the Zoom to my router.
Router.
I'm gonna try hardwiring it in and see if that
So
works.
this is what my solution that I found. Um, so so I've been reading about it. When you have your router, right, and there's a lot of devices connected to it, especially when everybody's home nowadays, everybody's connected to the internet. So
Yeah.
if there's too many devices in one channel, it constricts the bandwidth. So what I did is I bought an extender, like I think it's a TP-Link extender. So all
Hmm.
the other devices in our household gets put into that extender channel, and then I occupy my main channel for just the Zoom teaching, and it actually fixed a lot of the lag that I was experiencing this week.
Oh, cool.
So
That's
I
awesome.
yeah, that's another tip that I'll share to everyone today. Yeah, because I noticed too that there were lessons that were okay, and there were some that that my videos output was quite choppy. But yeah, the Wi-Fi extender works a lot. Then
Hey Ben, where do you live?
uh,
I am in Connecticut, just about 40 minutes outside of Manhattan. So
Well, how are you guys doing out there, man? Are you hanging in there?
hanging in here, there, yeah. It's it's crazy in this region, but we're making do and staying in place and just going out to the groceries. But other than that, staying in.
We're in the
But
same boat here in Seattle.
yeah.
Yeah.
oh yeah, you got hit really hard actually very early on. So
Yes. Yes. Well, it's nice to meet you in the virtual realm, man. I've seen you
yeah,
around for a long time.
very nice to meet you.
So how's the grocery situation there in Connecticut?
A week and a half ago, it was really bad. Like you go to the store and like you would go to one store and they wouldn't have any pasta, and you would go to another store and they wouldn't have any meat. That seems to be cleared up. The one exception to that is paper products, which are still impossible to get. I ran into a guy in the elevator yesterday. I was like, "Look, you got a roll of paper towels," and he's like, "Yeah, I went to 3 stores, but I managed to find one." So it's
Same.
gonna pay for another couple weeks here, but we're gonna run out of stuff pretty soon. So I'm hoping that will improve. Maybe I don't know how much, how many rolls of toilet paper and paper towels people can keep in their house, but
You know, it's one of my student uh, from Vancouver sent us this huge box of face masks. So we've donated a box of it to a UW hospital, and we've been sending families and friends some face masks because they're all sold out. You can't find them, and
Yeah.
so yeah.
It's pretty
We,
pretty wild.
you know, we got lucky because when Joe and I went to our trip to the Philippines in January, it was just right after the volcanic eruption
Oh,
in the Philippines. So I bought this N95 masks. Uh,
right.
I was thinking because of the volcanic ash, I didn't want to inhale that. And for me and Joe, and so we already had those masks before this whole thing even started. And when on our way back from the Philippines, this was all popping in the news. So we kept wearing those N95 masks. But, like when I bought it that time, it was still, the stock was still high, but now it's out, all of it is out of stock.
Hmm.
yeah, uh, yeah, and they're finding more and more it probably is important to have a mask too. That seems to be the latest conclusion.
Yeah, because you can't uh, transmit it to other people if you have it.
Yeah.
It's more difficult, I guess.
Yeah.
So just for everyone for the attendees, let me introduce our panel, Mr. Benjamin Steinhardt and Mr. Eric Branner. both are very active in our music community and here to help everyone out and to provide an open discussion about this. And because this has really kind of hit the music community like a bomb, all overnight. uh, all of us were forced to fully go online, and some of us have had online experience, but I think majority has none. And so the first week I've spent hours trying to coach friends who had literally no clue about Zoom or Skype or a secondary camera and all that stuff. And for a lot of people, it was very stressful. And that's why I wanted to do this webinar and keep doing it perhaps every week, just to get everyone until everyone gets settled and situated. And yeah, it's terrifying to for most. So how have you guys transitioned?
So I had done some Skype FaceTime lessons in the past, but mainly with very serious students, people who were working on heavy duty technical stuff and didn't have access to a teacher, in New York or something like that. So it wasn't completely new to me doing all this, but now I'm suddenly doing 35 kids a week, ranging from 6 years old to seniors. So it's been a big change. One of the big changes is simply that I co-moderate this forum called the Art of Piano Pedagogy, which probably a lot of people are members of. We have seen double the number of people posting in the last couple of weeks, and we created this new group called Piano Teachers with Coronavirus Concerns. We went from 0 to 4,000 members in, I don't know, a week and a half or something.
Wow.
We now have 8,000 posts. So the entire industry has been affected. Everybody is suddenly moving to online. So I think there's been this sort of great panic for, what do I do? And now that we're getting into the second and third week, I think people are getting a little more comfortable with online teaching, but it's still a big change for everyone.
People have asked me. Oh, by the way, there's a Q&A for people that just logged in. There's a Q&A. There's a Q&A section, and yes, we haven't started yet. We just started like a pre-discussion. I had a question here from Clinton Pratt. Did I have the wrong time? No, we will start officially right now. Actually, we are starting right now officially. You didn't go in at the wrong time. You're just right on time. So so we have 26 attendees right now. And shall I start? Do you think I should start the slideshow for step-by-step procedures for people that don't know how to use Zoom yet or are new to Zoom?
Maybe wait 5 minutes in case.
5 minutes? Yeah, 5 minutes. That's yeah. We're getting more people coming in, so yeah, 5 minutes should be good. Yeah. So sorry to interrupt. You were saying?
Oh no, I think I said what I was going to, but just that we're all going through this huge changes in the industry, and as I was saying, I co-moderate these two forums now, the Art of Piano Pedagogy and now Piano Teachers with Coronavirus Concerns, and both those have just absolutely skyrocketed in terms of people posting and having questions, and the questions almost entirely have to do with online teaching and how to make this transition as an industry. I think most teachers, there's a few teachers who sort of specialized in it, and that's what they did, and they had huge setups and everything. And I think most teachers, at most, they did it maybe for a makeup lesson or something, but it was not something they were particularly familiar with.
I've been asked this question a lot because I've been splitting my time between Vancouver and Seattle. I live full time in Seattle, but when I got married to Joe, we moved to Seattle, and so I had to transition my whole Vancouver studio in a span of few years, and so that's where I got this whole online teaching experience, and it started in 2017. So we started with FaceTime, and I started with just one iPad, and then it kind of got more sophisticated, and then I transitioned to Zoom, then the two camera angles. So people have asked me, what about the quality of the teaching? I discovered that my quality of teaching improved a lot because of the online thing. I'm far more detailed, and my students actually are more detailed, and they perform cleaner in competitions. So this uh, and this is a question that a lot of parents ask. Like, they seem to associate online teaching to something that's of lesser quality, but in fact, it's actually greater in many aspects, especially on how I can use technology more now to teach music theory. It's far more effective, and kids are forced to practice slow and with metronome because of this medium. And it just, I'm kind of blown away by the results in my studio, in terms of quality. I don't know what you guys have experienced so far regarding this.
I have to say, first, my name's Eric. I'm here in Seattle with Ross too. I'm actually a classical guitar teacher, still polyphonic, still teaching online, but I'm also one of the co-founders of fonts.com. So I work a lot with music teachers and people that work in appointment-based business. And I also teach about 25 to 30 private students a week. And I agree with Ross in that we got hit here in Seattle early, and I'm in my middle of my fifth week now of moving online altogether. And I had to move online overnight because the owner of the building where I have my main studio got sick, and I didn't take any chances, and I just didn't have any time to have my clients fail or say no. It was like, tomorrow we're going online. And so my process was very minimal. It was just my MacBook Pro and Zoom, right? Because I did it within 12 hours. And my setup has remained relatively minimal for what I need. But my clients, they're out of school. My students are practicing so much. They're jumping into their friends' lessons. I had a student show up last night with his new puppy to his best friend's lesson, and he just sat and watched her guitar lesson very quietly with a puppy in one of the. And it's been a great way to connect with students. And for me, I've been surprised at how much personality you can put into them, how effective the lessons can be. I mean, I've been shocked because it's something I never planned on, and now there's many aspects of this that I intend to carry on with moving forward, because I've also driven 60 hours less in the last month than I normally do, right? Not driving to my studio and back. And so it's been an interesting process. I'd agree with you, Ross.
And what sucks with all this is the commute from the piano to the kitchen.
Yeah, right. It's more tea.
Yeah, it's amazing as teachers too. We teach for such long hours, and we forget that sometimes that we're hungry and that we need to eat or we need to have coffee. And sometimes in our teaching situation, we don't have a teacher lounge or a kitchen. But with this, we can actually serve our students better because we don't get hangry, or we're well nourished. And so I think there's a lot of really pluses in this online teaching, and just getting everyone set up, I think, is the key. So just for everyone that's came online, there's a Q&A portion where you can put your questions, and we the panelists will try to answer them as thoroughly as we can. And so now we have about 37 attendees online. Should we start the slideshow? Yeah. For everyone that just came in and are new to Zoom, and I chose Zoom because I think it's the best platform for online classroom teaching. I've even tried just this last week a Zoom recital, and that was fun. I had a lot of my students muted, and just one. I can choose who to mute and unmute, and so that was quite interesting, and all the support from each one of them was quite amazing. So without further ado, the first thing I would suggest to all the teachers is to make a list or an inventory of all electronic gears you have in your closet, in your storage, anywhere in your car, in your bedroom, anywhere in the house, because all of the gear that I have here are things that I've already owned from the past. Any desktop computers, the more gear, actually, the more choices you have: laptops, tablets, iPads, smartphones. You know, a lot of us have more than one smartphone lying around somewhere because we've changed to the newer model and we decided not to give away or just store the other one. Pull that out of the closet because you can use that as an external camera. I have this old iPhone 6 that has a busted microphone. But guess what? The video is still working. So I'm using it as my secondary camera. And sometimes I need to point out things, and that's why I kind of hold it like this. So if I'm going to share the screen of that so everyone can see. See? There. I can point out and I can see my hand. You know, I can go do a close-up so I can change the different angles of that. So this really helps me with more close-up demonstration of my hand posture and even key positioning. So I can just move it around. And I have, and I'll show you, I have here a video camera that I hooked up to my MacBook Pro. And this is a Q8 that I used for my performances before, and it has a very good microphone. And where I'm talking to you guys right now here is my old iPad. This is about 6-year-old iPad. Still works. I've had it for a while and haven't used it because I bought a new one because I wanted to use it with a pen. And this is the one that I'm sharing the screen of. As you can see, this is where I'm running the slideshow, and this is where I annotate the scores for my students to see in real time. And then I have a backup Yeti microphone. This is actually my husband's microphone that he uses for his voiceover auditions. And then this one is my oldest, one of my oldest. This is a Shure microphone that I used to hook up to my iPhone for my practice session recordings. So before a recital, I wanted to hear myself and record myself. I use this microphone instead of the microphone that the iPhone has, which is not all that great. So that so far is the setup. And also I found this in the closet. It's my old Q3. The microphone of this can be used as an external microphone and can be hooked up to any computer or any device, and it still works. And it has a video camera too, although the video is not as good, but the microphone is what one can use this for. But I already have enough mics, so I didn't hook this up, but it was all lying in the closet. And I have 2 tripods from years ago. So all of this can be hooked up and joined together. So let's go to the next slide. So when you first go into Zoom, I'm going to start with the app first, the iOS app for your devices. This is probably the screen that most of you will see. And there's new meeting, join, schedule, share. And the first thing people probably will do is press new meeting. I wouldn't. I would first go to, on the left corner, the meeting settings. That meeting settings, because that will give you a screen that has your personal meeting ID. Now, I use that personal meeting ID for my room. Of course, I deleted my personal ID there and put a bogus one. That's what I give to all of my students. I give that number to my students and tell them, okay, this is our meeting room. This is the piano studio of Dr. Ross Salvosa, and this is where you all should join in when it's your time, right? So why I would go to this meeting settings first is because of that edit button. Now that edit, if you click on it, there's a feature called waiting room, enable waiting room. And that feature is very important because if a student goes online 5 minutes early, for example, you don't want them to be disturbing the lesson that you currently have, or ongoing lesson. It puts them on a waiting room, and Zoom will let you know if someone walks or enters the waiting room. Then you can admit them anytime you want. If it's their time, or if you're running a little bit behind, you can maybe 2 minutes here and there, and just so. I tend to go overtime, but one of the best things about going online is I became more precise with my time. Because then I hear my student go ding ding. There's a chime that you can play to make the students for you to hear if someone goes in and out of the waiting room. So the next slide, the next feature that I would like to, so then after that, then you can click start. So when you start, you will see the screen. Now, if you're using only one device, you want to make sure that you click that call using internet audio, because that will activate your video and audio of your devices. Right? A lot of people make this mistake and click cancel. And then they go online and their students are online and they can't hear anything. And a lot of students also make this mistake that they hit cancel and they're muted, and they actually have to rejoin the meeting room to enable this again. And the first week I've instructed a lot of students like, okay, leave the meeting and then make sure to press call using internet audio. That's a very important button to press. Now, sorry for the face here, but just here I'm trying to introduce the different buttons. So you have there a mic icon on the top. That's for mute. You can mute or unmute your audio, and video as well. You can broadcast or not broadcast your video. So what I do if I need to use the washroom, I unmute and I stop the video. Right, so they don't hear anything, they don't see anything, right? So it's quite helpful. And then there's that screen, that share content. That's for screen sharing, and that we will talk about later, because that's probably one of the most useful tool as an online piano teacher, is that screen sharing app or feature of Zoom. Then there's the participant. That's what I call the meeting room or waiting room control center. That's where you can see who's in the waiting room. You know, if you didn't hear the chime, you check on that. You'll see who's waiting, and you can admit people whenever you want through that. And then there's those 3 dots. Very, very, very important. 3 dots. It's the settings section, and that settings section, why you should go there first, because there it is, meeting settings. You want to make sure you click on that meeting settings and enter it, because there it is. You want to make sure that those play chimes for enter and exit is on, and put participant in waiting room on entry is also on. That will notify you if someone walks in, goes online. I already feel that it's like a virtual room. I feel like they walk into my patio or my living room, and it lets me know who's in and who just left. So those are important settings for people that's new to Zoom. And so now let's go to the screen share. On the share content, there's a share screen option, and that's I'm going to show everyone. So with this, see, this tablet is the one that I'm sharing. I'm currently screen sharing this tablet to everyone, and this is connected to the same meeting room. And so whatever is on this will be projected to everyone in the meeting room. Just word of caution, if you're going to use an iPad or anything that you screen share, make sure it's clean of everything you don't want your students to see. Because they will see everything that you do on it. So you want to make sure that there's nothing there that you don't want anyone to see. Yeah? So just remember that they will see everything. And so when you click the share screen, you will see this pop-up screen, screen broadcast, Zoom, start broadcast. And in some cases, there's other options like Facebook or things like that. You want to press just Zoom and then start broadcast. Now that will broadcast the screen, like whatever is on your screen, right? And for people that have other questions, I will okay, now let us discuss I'm going to give an overview first before I answer everyone's questions. I'm going to give an overview of the desktop version of it too. So in the desktop version, when you download it for your browser on your laptop or your desktops, you will see this screen. And same thing, I would go to that left corner, the settings icon there. I'm sorry, the right top corner under my picture. There's that settings corner. And you will have actually much more setting options than you would have on your iPad or your other devices. You can control your video settings here. Now, this is when you connect a video camera via USB. And now, some people said that, oh, I cannot use my video camera. Check the make or the company that made the camera for the drivers. Now, if you install the correct drivers on your desktop and or your laptop, your Zoom will be able to recognize that camera as a secondary camera. That's why people are having problems. I had a friend that I helped this week, like, oh, I have this camera and it just doesn't work. I tried it, it doesn't work. And we were like, okay, what brand is? So we went to the website, downloaded the drivers, and boom, now you have a secondary camera. So the secret there is the drivers. You need to download the drivers for your devices. And if they're too old, maybe they don't have drivers, then maybe you can't use them. But most, like from 2000 or even late 90s, would have updated drivers that you can download, hook it up through USB, and you will be able to use that as a secondary camera. And most likely, those video cameras have better microphones than your current devices. So I suggest using those too, right? So that camera there, you see I have the Q8 webcam that's connected to my laptop that I can have the option of using. Mic. Now, there are a lot of USB microphones out there. I'm using a Yeti right now for everyone to hear, and it's my husband's microphone. He uses it as for his voiceover audition. It's very good, but any other external microphones are actually better than the microphones that the devices have. So if you have it else somewhere, download the drivers, plug it in, and sure enough, Zoom will recognize it, and you will be able to toggle between them in the meeting, and I'll show that later. Now, microphone settings, if you're using like a Yeti or even just the internal microphone, you can change the input volume. This is important because if your input volume is too low, your students won't be able to hear you properly. You will be too soft. So this is a setting that you have to make sure you have at least more than 50%. I have it at 75%. And since I'm using a Yeti microphone, I put the gain lower and I put the input volume higher so it doesn't saturate. And it provides me a clearer sound output towards my students. And then another thing you want to check is that your speaker output volume is at max. Because you want to be able, if you're using external speakers, you want to be able to hear your students clearly, so you're not squinting. And that was one of the first issues that a lot of teachers have. It's like, oh, I can't hear my students. I'm like, oh, I'm struggling to hear my students. So make sure that output volume is at max. Next, once you're in the meeting, you can toggle. If you look at the mute icon there, the microphone mute and stop video, there's an arrow on each side, on the side of it, on the right side. You can toggle between microphones. If you click on it, you can select what microphones you want to use at a given point. You can change what speakers you use at any given point. Same goes with the camera. You can either use your secondary camera or your built-in camera that's already built in your laptop or your desktop. So with that, you already have two views if need be. Now, another option that I've been using is I have been, let me unmute this, using other devices as secondary camera, as I've shown before. So how you can do that is if you have an old iPhone or any other device that you have, or an extra phone that has a video camera, you can install Zoom and join the same meeting where you are now, and it will pop up as a secondary camera. Now, if you have a desktop and a device, you can actually use the same account and it won't boot you out. A lot of people, in the beginning, I thought you need a different account. Actually, you don't. It won't boot you out if it's a desktop, a laptop, and a mobile device. But if you add a third one, then it will boot you out. So two can, that system can work, a desktop and a device can work, but not more than that. So I actually have I set up a different email accounts for my other devices so that I can join them all in the same room. Right, so I have another one here by my webcam. Let's see, this is my webcam that's hooked. This is my main secondary camera that's hooked to my MacBook. And so this one I'm using to demonstrate to you is my fourth camera angle that I have, or third. And so I use this so I can move around the keys if I need moving around. And this is an old iPhone that has a busted microphone. I don't need the microphone of this. I only need the video. And so any device, old device that you can use, bring it out, charge it. And so there you go, the video sign you can toggle from. Next is when you click to those two little guys there, the participant view, if you go to more, you'll see play, chime, enter, and exit. On the desktop version, some people complain to me like, oh, I can't hear. Like, how can you hear if someone goes in and out? And that's where you're going to find that setting, play, enter, and exit. It's a chime, like ding dong, that will... So please, guys, Ben and Eric, please feel free to interrupt if you have any questions or suggestions. Ben?
No, I don't. I think you've covered it mainly. One of my greatest tools is simply my space bar on my computer, since I use it as my main host. Because it can very quickly mute and unmute, and I don't have to like go running around looking for buttons or anything.
Oh, perfect! I didn't know that. You see, I learned something new. So with just a space bar, you can mute it.
Yeah.
The audio, right? Okay, good. How about the video? You just have to still press it, or?
Yeah, you just give it a click, click, click. But it's great because the hard part about this format is, of course, you mainly have to take turns. It's very hard to talk over students. So
yeah.
If you can go back and forth, it makes life a lot easier. And I'm doing the same thing as you. I've taught at two places for a long time. I've taught in Manhattan privately, and then I've taught here in Connecticut. And our school gave us all selfie sticks. So I've been using the selfie stick, which is a cheap thing you can get off of Amazon, for those very up close keyboard views, just with my camera, to get close views of the keyboard. And then I have I did buy, it's the only purchase I made. I bought for like $37. I got a sort of a what they call a gooseneck stand, so that I can put my iPad on it for a keyboard view.
Yeah.
And this is great because I think keyboard views is usually the best one for fixing kind of technical problems, etc.
Yeah, the keyboard view. That's why the first time I started using keyboard view, I only used this one for the keyboard view, and I had it mounted here on this side, so that worked. And now I use the Q8 because it has a very good microphone. So I toggle between my Yeti and this one, depending. I think for voice, the Yeti, if I'm talking to my students, they prefer the Yeti. But when I play, now what I did is because I have an Avantgrad that has an audio out, I connected it through RCA cable to the line inputs of the camera. So actually, they hear a much more cleaner piano sound because it gets fed directly into the camera, and then they also get the live sound mixed together. So I put it in different channels, so now actually they have a kind of like a concert hall sound coming in into their computers. So yeah, thank you for that. Eric, how about you?
I was just going to add in one because I'm sure you're probably going to go into advanced settings. I'm assuming. Yeah. But the thing that I've seen most in this process, as coming on and getting online, is students coming on not being able to hear, or you not being able to hear them. And so it's like it's almost in auto. You're like, go to the bottom left part of your screen. Click on the little arrow above the mute. I mean, we're all going to say that a lot the first weeks because parents are going to be trying to set this up for their kids. And it's just go to that arrow, click on that, make sure you're selecting the right thing, get them unmuted. I feel like that's probably the most valuable tidbit that ends up causing those first couple minutes to be awkward when you're trying to be like, I don't know what's going on. Is getting them to, getting their audio going, getting their video going so they can see what's happening.
Some very smart teachers, like a friend of mine from Vancouver, Lauren Kelly, she had an open house before officially started teaching. So it's for students to just go online, so they can iron out their glitches and stuff. So that's also a great idea. And also my friend Flora, who's in Kenosha, she also did sort of that kind of open house thing where they just did that for setting up, so they don't have to do it actually in lesson or consume lesson time, which was quite smart. It might take a day to do it for everyone, but that's actually quite
smart. Sorry,
Ralph,
I just want to interrupt for a second because I'm seeing a lot of questions on the
yes.
We can't see you if you are a participant, so you'll just see us. I think that seems to be one of the big questions. And the other is, it probably depends on your device, but you may need to click the little thing at the bottom to see all the screens, to see all the views. You may just be seeing one right now. On my particular iPad, you have to click that to see the gallery view, or else you have to maybe on a desktop it would be gallery view. But if you want to see I think there's 5 views of us, 2 keyboards and the 3 panelists. If you want to see that, you have to click that.
Yeah, and also too, for people switching camera views, there's a question here. Like switching camera views. There's a shortcut, Command Shift N, that you can use to just or Shift Command N to change from your primary camera to your secondary camera. And I know it's quite a learning curve for everyone, and even for myself, I'm still tweaking it. I'm like, oh, where's the best position for this? Oh, should I use this as my aerial view camera? And so I'm still looking, and we are all, as we go along the next few weeks, we are going to tweak our settings, and we're going to find really what's optimum for all of us. And so just y'all, a little bit of patience. We will get through all this together, and we are all here to help. And I'm actually been very impressed with our music community and how we just helped each other, and everyone is starting to settle into this, and this is great. This is amazing. So what is there any more questions that we need to address quickly from the Q&A? Yeah, for cameras, I think drivers. Yeah, you would probably most likely be able to use those cameras. It's just that your computer doesn't recognize them. Then you need to download the drivers for it. Go to the maker's website, and it probably will work. So next, so when you screen share through the desktop, you have a lot of more options. And if you're a bit techie, then you can have you can go to town with this. So you can share your desktop, so everything that's on your desktop will be seen by everyone, or you can share your whiteboard where you can write things. You know, if you have a laptop that has a pen, you can share that. So, and there is an iPhone, iPad via AirPlay. I don't use it because I don't know how to use it. um, and iPhone, iPad via cable. I mean, that's again using your iPhone as an external camera. That can work too. But I actually like using it because I don't like it to be hooked to um, my laptop. So I just use the same account to log into the same meeting. And I think that's for me most efficient. I don't know for other teachers, but for me that's most efficient because I like my devices to be free from that. I don't want to be moving around things and um, or not being able to position it where I want to position it. So that's the end of now. That screen share capability is great because I can play games with my students. Now, another software that I've downloaded that's very useful is the Microsoft Whiteboard, and I'm sure there's other whiteboard apps out there. But so since online teaching requires a lot of prep work, I think it actually requires a lot more than normal teaching. So because of the prep work, I've streamlined what I do. So before each lesson, the morning of or the night of, my students are already accustomed to the protocol of sending me a picture or a scanned copy of the works of the pieces they're working on, of their new homeworks or the pieces they want to play. So they send me a copy of it via text in JPG format. And what I do is this: I go to Microsoft Whiteboard, and it's loading, it's loading. So as you can see, I have here, these are especially for my younger students, I have a file for each one of them. I have a whiteboard. And so if Albert is working on this, for example, I can just import the picture using that plus button there. It can import an image, and any image that you've received in your iMessage or text message, you can pull up, or anything that's in your photo album. And so I quickly pull up, and sometimes when you pull up a piece, it will be of the wrong size, or it will be too small. For example, let's pull this up there, and it's the wrong orientation. That's actually easy to fix. You just drag this and you pinch it, and voila, you have that resized. So I like the feature that I can actually use a rainbow colored pencil for everything. My students love that. They get a kick out of it. And so I can write a lot of notes for them, and I can share this with them too. And now students are very techy. They screenshot everything.
One thing I finally realized recently is that I don't know if it works with this particular program, but the whiteboard feature on Zoom, students can actually write on their end as well.
Oh.
So you can have them do worksheets by posting an image of it, and they can do it in real time.
Really? Okay, that I didn't know. Yeah. You see, I'm learning something new. So you can actually import also on Zoom whiteboard, right? Pictures,
yeah,
right?
They say just share your image or whatever. I also have a folder for each one of my students with JPEGs or PDFs.
Wonderful. Okay, that's something I learned. New things that I've learned. Wonderful. Eric, how about you? Do you have any strategies that?
I don't do a whole lot of whiteboarding yet, but I'm going to. I wrote that down. Get whiteboard.
Yeah, so there's a question. Can you use the whiteboard on a MacBook, or is it iPad only? I think you can use the whiteboard anywhere, because you can always use your mouse.
Yeah.
To draw things on it, and so even if you don't have a tablet, you can still use that. Use your mouse, use your finger on the trackpad, and boom, you can annotate, and you can even write text on it or put a text box on it and type on top of stuff. So yeah, I think you can use it. It's not just for iPads or tablets. That's a good question, actually. Can whiteboard have a staff placed over it with a hard clear plastic so you can draw and erase notes. Okay, now this you can import. This is what I do. I import. I have. So I import an image. This is my. I'm sure there's better ways to do it, but this is kind of like my shortcut. So I import. I downloaded a JPEG image from the internet of a staff sheet music. There. And I just write over it. I write over it. Let me see. Oops, this is not working. Oh, there. You just write over it. Oh, my pen doesn't seem to be working. But you can do this. Oh, it should be not there. Now, there it is. You can write over it. You can write notes over it. See? You can import any images and write over it on those apps. You can even do it, as Benjamin said, on the whiteboard of Zoom itself. And so you can do an interactive both on both ends. I didn't know that. Thank you for that, Benjamin. Great. So I think that answers that question. What else? Games. You can play games using your screen share. I have this app called Tenuto, and it has different categories: note identification, staff construction, and ear training. I love this because the kids just love it, and it plays, the sound, and they will tell me the answer, and I would press it, and they would see the green, and I'm like, yay! And we would clap, and we would keep score. And my friend Lauren Kelly just introduced me to a few days ago to Blob Chorus.
Blob, 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 blob.
It's hilarious. And kids love this.
Blob, 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 blob.
So if you make a mistake, it kills the blob.
Blob.
And it makes those sounds, right? For example, let's make a mistake.
Blob, 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 blob.
It's hilarious, and kids have been enjoying it, and it's quite amazing. And I thought when this all happened, this whole isolation, that all of us will be more distant from each other, but I think the contrary happened. We've hunkered in, and we've been more of a community, and I've been having Zoom dates with friends and new friends over this, and this is quite amazing. I'm really enjoying this setup in many sense. So how about you guys? Anything to add?
Oh, I just read an article in the paper the other day. We spent so much time the last several years talking about how terrible screens are for us, and they probably are. But what they have found is that actually this communication through things like Skype and FaceTime, where you can actually see someone's face, has a very similar impact on your brain as talking to a real person, in a way that a phone conversation, for instance, does it. So I had a student who just yesterday said to me, "Oh, so nice to see an actual person." And it's true. We're because of this virtual medium, we're able to really connect with people despite physical distance in a way that's fairly close to to actually being with a real person. So I think it's wonderful that we're able to do this.
So what I ask my students to do is so most of the students have probably more than one device, a laptop and a tablet or a phone. So what I ask them to do is have one designated as a camera, so that they can, and I use this iPad like a face-to-face, because you're right, they need that face-to-face interaction in order to feel like, oh, there's someone there. And then they use either their iPhones or their tablets, and they put it on top of the sheet of the music rack, and they have it stuck in my sheet music app or my screen share, and so that they see exactly what I'm annotating at any given point, right? So I downloaded Fourscore, and I can write on it. I've also downloaded Henley. Henley, you can write on it, but it's a bit finicky, the annotation process of it. So I'm using Fourscore, And I find that it's more fun to do it actually on the whiteboard because I can use different colored pencils and import pictures on it. So yeah, that really helps me a lot. Um, what else? Oh, we can actually now watch together YouTube clips. If I'm recommending a performance, for example, I asked my student recently that's playing Arabesque by WC. It's like, have you seen the Lugansky? It's like, who have you been watching? And she goes, oh, some 9-year-old kid playing. And I'm like, okay, sweetie, let's watch together. Uh, Nikolai Lugansky played this beautifully. And while we were watching it, she cried. And it was in real time, because we were both, what I stream here, she will be able to see on her end, uh, practically the same. That would probably be a few milliseconds of lag, but yeah, she was so blown away by Lugansky's Arabesque that she just cried. And I'm like, oh, you see, there's other versions of this that you can listen to. So that, yeah, I mean, in the past, it was almost uncomfortable to use your phone while you're teaching face to face, but now you're forced to use the technology, and and because of it we are ripping the benefits of it.
Yeah, I think, Ross, if I could, I think that's really changed the cadence of how our lessons work too, right?
Yes.
Because usually you're coming into the studio, you're connecting, saying how, whatever, take that kind of, and you have kind of a plan and you roll through it, and now it's kind of, those moments are streamlined, right? Where to just pull up a YouTube video, it can already be prepared. It just seems like it's much quicker, much smoother.
So I'm just going to answer. You're right about that. There's a question here by Jamie. Um, a couple of my most dedicated students unfortunately have a weak Wi-Fi connection, which can support multiple camera views, etc. So far, best I could find is FaceTime call has the best sound over weak Wi-Fi connections. Yes, that's true. For some students, I have to actually resort to a more primitive setup. FaceTime works, and I just use this. But that's why I have this, the one I'm talking to you with, hooked up with a good microphone, with a Shure mic, because if I need to, I don't have any option but to use FaceTime with some students. I use this.
Hey, Ross, are you going to discuss original sound and noise suppression?
Yes.
Okay,
Yes,
so I won't bring it up then, because I know for many people that think that they're having a connection issue or a connectivity issue, especially if you're playing percussively, those settings seem to like really help out.
Now, I'm going to go back to this setting. You have to make sure that to test, well, my experience is that for apps, for example, if you're using an iOS device, right, or a phone device, that you cannot adjust the gain or even the input volume of those mics because they're quite fixed. You need a third-party app to do that for you. So, because I have a Shure mic, I've downloaded the Shure Motive app, and I've discovered that even if I don't have this mic hooked up, it can virtually change the settings of your internal microphones. Virtually. So all you have to do is put it in position. You don't have to lock it in position. Actually, you just have to keep it running in the background. And whatever settings you put in that third app software will be used on whatever other apps that you're using, as long as it's running in the background. So you can adjust the gain of it. If it's saturating, then reduce the input level. And here too, on the microphone levels here, you want to make sure that, for me, optimal is about 75%. And then I reduce the gain of my internal microphone. And if you can't do that on your iOS manually, you need a third-party app like a Shure Motive to do it for you. Then there's also some musical settings there too, and it can also change the aperture. It's quite amazing. It can change, like if you want stereophonic or monophonic.
While we're talking about gear, and before we move on to that, would it be okay if I added one thing in?
Really? No worries. Sure.
A lot of people that I've worked with and that I'm working with are really enjoying having an audio interface, yes. Right? Which, for me, I use the Apogee Duet, right? Which is it's been awesome. I've had this for a long time, but it's got really great audio quality. And I can use that to run 2 mics going in and 2 lines going in, headphones out. So if I'm doing a session, I can go close back headphones and really listen and really get good audio from a condenser mic. And so if you're dialing in your sound, there's some great options that aren't too expensive. I think like the Scarlett Focusrite is a affordable entry into that. And if you're really wanting to dial into your sound, I've loved this Apogee product. It's been really cool.
So you're connecting your mic directly to that, and that connects to your computer.
Yes, I have preferred mic. I mean, for me personally, I have a lot of mics that are not Bluetooth mics, and I had this set up as my recording setup from before. So just like you were saying, we're kind of using what we have, right? And so I had my audio interface was the Duet. I could plug my mics into it. I can also plug my guitars into it and use virtual guitar amps and stuff like that. So I can have 4 ins at once, which is really great. And it will also, just like you were saying, once properly installed, that will show up in your Zoom as an audio selection, right?
You just gave me a fantastic idea, my friend.
I'd be happy to show you sometime, but it's definitely a great tool.
Wow. Yeah, I was another student of mine. He's actually a composer, but more of a, not a piano student, more of a composition student, and he does a lot of electronic, amazing. But he has a room filled with this, and every time we had a lesson, I was like, "Oh, your piano sounds good," and he's like, "Oh, it's connected to my this, how do you call it?"
His audio interface.
Interface. Yes, it's all connected to the interface, and he has his microphone. Like, oh, that sounds. And I've been puzzled by it, and now that you mentioned it.
Yeah, and I think just being from in the different genres too. A lot of my students are using Pro Tools or some kind of DAW that we screen share, or especially if they're doing composition or they're doing multiple parts together, sharing their Ableton, Logic, and the baby version of that, which is GarageBand, which is a really awesome tool for us to use as music teachers, and it's very powerful. So it's another good one to throw into the mix.
Wonderful, wonderful.
I'd also add totally other side of the spectrum. If you find you are having a lot of issues with communicating with students via bad internet, I do a lot of reminder videos or little video clips for my students. And I have Class Dojo, which is a free app. It's for classroom teachers. A lot of the schools around here use it. Each kid has an account, and I can really quickly pop a video on there. Or they could even send things back to me. And that way we can communicate really quickly with better quality.
Also, one thing too, because there's another question from Sherry May about the output that the input, the audio output from our students. We have to make sure to write them a long email of instructions, which I've done. On that screen that I'm sharing right now, you can see there's a button there for automatically adjust microphone volume. You want to make sure that on your student's end that's not selected. And you have to emphasize it to them. Otherwise, if they play anything loud, it will cut it. Or if it's too soft, it will make it too loud. It will adjust it on. So you want to unclick that automatically adjust microphone volume. It will greatly improve what you hear from your students, and also ask them to have it at 75, or have that third-party app downloaded so they can adjust. So I've already, this past few weeks, been sending very detailed instructions, step 1, step 2, step 3 to everyone, and the parents have actually been very helpful, thankfully, and I've been getting good quality sound from my students. So that will help a lot, and that doesn't require an external microphone, because some families cannot afford, like especially at this time, to invest on new gear. So we use what we have, and we just, if we set it up in the optimal settings, right, then it would be manageable. It's actually quite decent. So that is a setting that everyone needs to unclick. So what else? The questions that we have here. Oh, that says, what is your recommendation for student settings? That's it. We just discussed that.
Could I go into that a little bit deeper, Ross?
Sure.
I don't know. I see Kevin's question is about sound fading in and out and lots of distortion, right?
Yep.
And that is maybe. And are you going to take him into advanced settings in this call, or can I talk about it really quickly?
Talk about it.
So two things that I found that made or broke my experience with Zoom. One is an advanced setting called original sound, right?
Yes.
And what you want to do is you want to go into your settings. Actually don't live in the app, they live online. So you have to be signed into your account online, and you scroll down and you enable original audio. And what's going on, and I'll try to say it in a way that's understandable, is the codec, the way this sound is processed, right? Zoom is set up to, if it hears background noise such as a tone, it thinks of it as noise, and it suppresses it, right?
So it's I'm showing everyone the web app. So where do you where was
it'd be under it'd be either under admin, under advanced, or settings under profile. It's one of those two.
Yes, settings.
Yeah, check that, and you scroll way down. You have to go way down, and it's under advanced settings. I think you'll find it under advanced, actually.
Advanced. Oh, settings. There it is. And
you scroll way down, and you'll find it at the bottom.
Oh, that's a lot.
Keep going up. Down. Yeah, and what you do when that's turned on is you don't always use it, because if you have original sound on for a conversation, right, it's going to feed back. And so right before you're about to play an example, you can turn on the original sound, and they'll be able to hear you much more clearly. Most of my students, I don't have them use original sound, but if it's that watery sound Kevin's talking about, that distortion, having them enable original sound to perform will really help. But the other thing is there's a way you can turn off the noise suppression, and that you can do. I can look that up. You can do that right in the app.
Yeah, the noise. Yes, the suppression you can do on the app. I saw that. I can't find that original sound for some reason.
You know what? I can post a link to it.
Yes,
it's right in this list. It's somewhere in here.
It's it's where I'm at right now, right?
Yep, it's in that. It's down in that list somewhere.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, right. Yeah. But okay. Well,
actually, I'm just gonna post something in the chat for the drummer too.
Sure.
Yeah, I see what Clinton said. Yeah, these are under these advanced settings that don't live in that app. I'll post it right now so you guys can see it. One sec.
Perfect. I'm learning a lot from here too. We're all learning from each other. This is amazing. Thank you guys. So I will explore that shortly. But wonderful.
Yeah.
Is there any other questions that we need to address? Absolutely need to prepare before beginning of on what gadget? Yeah, app. Same thing. Whatever. FaceTime would work if you want to go kind of more less complicated. But Zoom is for most of us teachers most efficient. And one is asking, have you tried an audio on only lesson? No, it's kind of hard. I mean, it's hard enough as it is doing the online, but to do audio only and not be able for them to see us, I think it just adds to the distance of it all. So I like with the video, albeit just one angle like this. And what I've also noticed is that with online teaching, I've become far more efficient with my words when describing things, and more creative too with my wording to my students. So it really benefited them a lot. The time lag, guys, we just have to accept the fact that there is that time lag, and that time lag, you have to learn to work around it. It is so funny that because of the screen share, I can actually share a metronome app that they can hear on their end if they don't have a metronome. And then I also got good at putting my metronome before I download and hearing the lag, and my ear synchronized to the lag. there's a lot of things that can be done. And even when they're putting their metronome, I know now how to time a little bit before it for it to arrive to them just on time. So we just have to work around it. I know it's not ideal, but this is what we have, and it. I mean, it's better than none. So that
I
time
was
lag.
actually able to accompany a singer a couple days ago, which I felt like was a huge accomplishment. Partly because we had very good internet connection on both ends. I think that was a big part of it. But even though we're hearing a lag, they don't hear the lag. They just hear it as one thing. So if you know you're going to just be a second behind them the whole time, you can sort of adjust to it. It's pretty remarkable.
Yeah, or when we're playing duet, just make sure you have the same. Put the metronome, and what I do is I make them put their metronome, and I time mine just a slightly bit before theirs, and then we can actually play duet.
Yeah.
There's always workarounds with this situation, and yes, it's not going to be ideal. We have to wait for 5G. I think the 5G is supposed to not have that lag.
Hey Ross, I went ahead. I posted the instructions on how to turn on original sound from Zoom, how to preserve original sound.
Oh, perfect.
Awesome. And I also posted that I think it was Kevin, about the percussion, about suppressing intermittent background noise.
Yeah.
Which is something we've seen a lot. A friend of mine's a flamenco dancer, and she's doing flamenco classes, and every time they do footwork, it just totally cuts out. So those two things should be pretty helpful for people dialing in their sound.
Yes. Yeah, I actually got a call from my friend Samuel. Yeah, because when he was teaching percussion, he said that it just cuts out and he couldn't hear anything. And this would really help. But thank you so much for that tip.
Oh, wait. And I just posted it to the panelists. I'm going to post it to the attendees too.
Oh, I see it.
I see it. Yes, I see it. Perfect. Oh, I can't thank you enough, guys, for taking time from your day to do this with me. And I can't thank all enough all the participants that joined. And I hope you all learned from this. And we'll just keep doing this until everyone gets settled. And I'm pretty sure this next week everyone will be more settled and more calmer with it.
Yes, it does get easier. That's
yes.
For sure. Here in week 5, it's feeling just like, it's feeling smooth, and I'm preferring it in a lot of ways too. So we got it.
It's weird because then some of my colleagues from the show was like, oh, it would feel so weird going back. We all kind of start settling into this, and we almost in many ways prefer it. And actually, I did a poll for my students. 80% of them want to stay online.
Wow.
80%. That's a lot. And then the 20% wants to do both.
Mm-hmm.
And I think no one said that they only want person to person. Like that 80 wants fully online and 20 both. And it just speaks of, and Joey Lieber, our friend from the Art of Piano Pedagogy, has been doing this for years, I think, and he has been teaching or telling this to people, and no one actually, a lot of people didn't believe him about it in many ways until this happened, and boom, suddenly all of us are online teachers.
Well, the biggest change I've seen is actually I'm at the school I teach. I'm often given the students who are ADD or who are on the autism spectrum, because I'm sort of good with those kids. I've seen a huge improvement in focus and ability to connect with me versus in this medium versus actually in real life, where often I find those students sort of get distracted or end up. It's amazing. They can really focus with me for 30, 45 minutes with minimal distractions. Something about this online medium really benefits them. I think.
Also the screen, that's why they're always on their devices. They love being on the screen. I mean, let's face it, even myself, I bought my iPad because I did away with sheet music. Every time I'm performing now, accompanying or chamber music, I'm using my iPad. and it just helps me focus more because of that backlight. It
Yeah.
it helps you, like, it zones you in, and it's quite fantastic.
Hey Ross, I also want to say you're an awesome teacher. I've really enjoyed hearing you.
Oh,
I've been
thank
doing
you.
this stuff, and I learned a lot from seeing you do this. And I love seeing how you broke it down. It was really great and helpful. So thank you for
Thank you.
taking the time to put this together.
No,
And
thank you also for helping me do this, and you guys have been amazing. Thank you, and I hope everyone learned a lot from this.
rock and roll.
Rock and
Yeah.
roll.
Fabulous. Yeah.
Thank you guys. Bye.
See you soon.
See you soon.